Welcome to our deep dive into one of the most intriguing and underrated substances mentioned in the Bible, salt. You might think of salt as just a seasoning for your food, but what if I told you it holds profound spiritual significance and could be considered a powerful tool in spiritual practices? Join us as we uncover the hidden truths about salt in biblical contexts and explore its potential as a spiritual weapon. Could salt be more than just a kitchen staple? Let's find out. Salt is so much more than a common household item. In the Bible, it symbolizes purity, preservation, and divine covenant. Its significance spans from ancient times to modern spiritual practices. This script will delve into salt's biblical symbolism, historical uses, spiritual applications, and its role in spiritual warfare, providing a comprehensive understanding of why this seemingly ordinary substance holds such extraordinary power. Salt in historical context. Salt's importance stretches back to ancient civilizations. It was crucial for preserving food before the advent of refrigeration. In ancient Egypt, salt was used to embalm mummies, showing its value in preservation. Roman soldiers were often paid in salt, highlighting its economic significance. Salt also played a role in daily life and rituals, making it a cornerstone of ancient societies. Salt is currency and commodity. The value of salt was so high that it was used as a form of currency in various cultures. Roman soldiers' salaries, or salarium, derived from the Latin word for salt, underscoring its importance in the economy. Salt's role in trade routes and its value in preserving food made it a vital commodity across the ancient world. Salt in ancient rituals and practices. Salt has been used in various rituals throughout history. In ancient Israel, salt was an integral part of sacrifices and offerings. It was considered a purifying agent and a symbol of the covenant between God and His people. Salt was also used in daily life for its preservative properties, reflecting its dual role in both practical and spiritual contexts. Salt in biblical symbolism. Salt in the Bible. In biblical texts, salt is rich in symbolism. Jesus describes His followers as the salt of the earth in Matthew 5:13. This metaphor suggests that believers play a crucial role in preserving moral and spiritual values. Just as salt enhances flavor and preserves food, Christians are called to enhance the world with their presence and uphold God's standards. Covenant of salt. The covenant of salt, mentioned in Numbers 18:19, represents an everlasting agreement between God and His people. Salt's permanence and unchanging nature make it a fitting symbol for God's unbreakable promises. This covenant signifies a lasting relationship between God and the priesthood, emphasizing the stability and faithfulness inherent in divine agreements. Salt in sacrificial offerings. In Leviticus 2:13, God commands that all grain offerings be seasoned with salt. This instruction underscores the importance of purity and sanctity in offerings. The use of salt symbolizes the incorruptible nature of God's covenant and the requirement for offerings to be presented in a state of purity and dedication. Salt in spiritual warfare. Purification and healing. Salt's role in spiritual practices often involves purification and healing. In 2 Kings 2:19-22, the prophet Elisha uses salt to purify a contaminated water source. This act demonstrates how salt can be a physical manifestation of divine intervention. While salt itself has no inherent power, its use as a tool for purification underscores its symbolic role in spiritual cleansing. Salt in modern spiritual practices. In contemporary spiritual practices, salt is used to create sacred spaces and protect against negative energies. Some traditions involve sprinkling salt around a home or using it in rituals to ward off evil spirits. This practice is rooted in the belief that salt's purifying properties can create a protective barrier and invite positive spiritual influences. Role of salt in spiritual cleansing rituals. Salt is also used in various cleansing rituals. For example, it may be used in the form of a salt bath to symbolize purification, or in rituals where it is sprinkled around a person or place to remove negative influences. These practices highlight salt's continued significance as a tool for spiritual renewal and protection. Biblical warnings and misconceptions. While salt holds significant symbolic value, it's essential to approach its use with discernment. The Bible warns against treating physical objects as sources of power. In Matthew 23:23-24, Jesus criticizes the Pharisees for their focus on ritualistic practices while neglecting justice and mercy. This warning reminds us that physical objects, including salt, should not replace or overshadow the core principles of faith and righteousness. Balancing ritual with faith. Using salt in spiritual practices should be done with a clear understanding of its symbolic role, rather than as a magical or superstitious object. Salt should be seen as a tool or symbol to aid in spiritual focus, rather than an object of worship. The effectiveness of spiritual practices lies in the intention and faith behind them, not the objects used. Misconceptions about salt's power. It's crucial to distinguish between the symbolic and practical uses of salt. While salt can play a meaningful role in spiritual practices, it should not be considered a talisman or a magical substance. Its power lies in its symbolic representation and its use as a physical reminder of spiritual truths and intentions. Salt in biblical judgment and desolation. One of the most striking biblical references to salt is the story of Lot's wife in Genesis 19:26. As God destroys Sodom and Gomorrah, Lot's wife looks back and is transformed into a pillar of salt. This transformation serves as a dramatic illustration of the consequences of disobedience and the enduring nature of divine judgment. Salt as a symbol of divine judgment. In Deuteronomy 29:23, salt is associated with divine judgment and desolation. The passage describes how the land, once fertile, will become a wasteland covered in salt, symbolizing the spiritual barrenness that results from rejecting God's commands. This imagery underscores the severity of divine judgment and the consequences of turning away from God. Practical applications of salt in spiritual life. Purification. Incorporating salt into your spiritual practices can be a powerful way to seek purification and renewal. Whether used in prayer, rituals, or as a symbol in sacred spaces, salt can help focus your intentions and invite divine presence. For example, sprinkling salt in your home or during prayer can serve as a physical reminder of your desire for spiritual cleansing and protection. Creating sacred spaces. Using salt to create sacred spaces involves sprinkling or placing salt in areas you wish to consecrate or protect. This practice can be a meaningful way to set aside these spaces for spiritual purposes and invite positive energies. While the salt itself does not possess magical properties, its use in this context can serve as a tangible representation of your spiritual intentions. Rituals and blessings. In addition to its use in purification and protection, salt can be included in rituals and blessings. For instance, during a house blessing, salt may be used to symbolize the introduction of divine presence and protection. Such practices should be accompanied by prayer and reflection, aligning with the spiritual intentions of the ritual. Salt, with its rich biblical symbolism and practical applications, offers us a unique perspective on the intersection of the physical and spiritual realms. From its role in ancient rituals to its use in modern spiritual practices, salt represents purity, preservation, and divine covenant. While salt itself is not a magical substance, its symbolic value and use in spiritual practices can enhance our understanding and connection to spiritual truths. If this exploration into the spiritual significance of salt has resonated with you, please consider sharing this video with others who might find it enlightening. Remember, the true power of salt lies in its connection to God's divine purposes and the intentions behind its use. May you find inspiration and guidance in your spiritual journey, using the insights gained here to enrich your faith and practice. Don't forget to subscribe for more content on spiritual insights and biblical teachings. Thank you for joining us, and may God bless you abundantly.